Hello, welcome to Algebra 1 with Miss Andrea. We are on lesson 5.5. And what that means is that this is going to be module 5. And if you're following along online, then that might say unit 3, but it's module 5. And then it's going to be page 5 in the online book. And that's why we're at lesson 5.5. Now, module 5 is all about quadratic equations. And so we got into that in the beginning, and then we started focusing on how to factor those equations, how to factor polynomials. So we're going to continue in that aspect. We're going to continue with some factoring. And today we're going to get into factoring trinomials when A is not 1. So in the past, we have our standard quadratic equation here, right? And we're just going to, when we're factoring, we're going to focus on the, not the equation, but the, this part, just the 1/2 of it. Remember, equation means when there's an equal sign, but an expression is when there's no equal sign. So we're just going to focus on this part of it, the expression part of it. And in the past, we looked at ones where A was 1, and that means something different than when A is a different number. So today we're going to specifically look at some things where A is a number other than 1. And we may have to work a little bit harder in order to factor these, but really once we show you the method, it's going to end up being pretty easy. So the method that we're going to use is called splitting the middle. Splitting the middle. So, you know, we have two terms. Let's write that standard equation here, ax squared plus bx plus c. So there's a total of 3 terms in here, 2 of which have x. Well, this middle term right here, we're going to split into 2 different terms. So then we'll have 4 terms instead of 3. So that's what splitting the middle essentially is all about. Okay. Now we saw in our last lesson that you can combine factoring methods. So we looked at always finding out if there's a GCF first. Remember what GCF means? Greatest common factor. So you look at all of the terms and see if there's something you can take out of all of them before you do any other factoring method. Okay. Sometimes there's one and sometimes there's not one. Then we need to identify what A, B, and C are. Again, we're talking about in standard form of the quadratic equation, A squared plus B squared. I'm sorry, A squared, AX squared plus BX plus C. This is the standard expression for a quadratic expression. And so we need to identify what the A, the B, and the C are in the expression that we're given. Then step 3, you're going to multiply A times C and figure out what that number is. And then you need to find some factors of whatever number you just found, A times C, that are going to add to what B is. Doesn't that sound very similar to what we had before? So far, it's very alike. But here's where it gets a little different in step 5. Now we're going to rewrite our equation and we're going to split that middle term BX into 2 terms using the numbers that we just found. And then we're going to factor by grouping. So in order to see how this is done, you have to really look at an example. So let's look at factor 2x squared plus 11x minus 21. So our step 1, factor the greatest common factor, if there is one. Well, 2x squared and 11x, they both have an x in common, but that's it. Neither one can be, you can't divide them both by anything, but then there's no x here. So there is no common factor, no greatest common factor. So step 1 is done. We're going to identify what A, B, and C is. A is 2, B is 11, and C is negative 21. So that's done. A times C, 2 times negative 21 is negative 42. Okay, then we need to find the factors of A times C. You know what? I have this set aside for us here. You can read that probably a little bit better. So now we need to find the factors of A times C, which add to be B. So I'm going to do the same chart I did before. They want to multiply to be negative 21. but add to be 11. And I know that they're going to have opposite signs, and the bigger number is going to be positive. So 1 times 21, the bigger number is positive, so this one's negative. 21 is odd, so it cannot be divided by 2 evenly. Let me see what 21 divided by 3 is. Oh, that's 7. So we've got 3 times 7. The bigger number is positive. Let's try 4. 21 divided by 4. No, that's not going to work. 21 divided by 5. Nope. Not going to work. 21 divided by 6. Nope, that one didn't work. So these are all of our factors here. Now, one of these should add to be a positive 11. Negative 1 plus 21 is going to be a positive 20. So I don't think that's it. Negative 3 plus 7. Nope, I said negative 21. Look at my mistake. We're looking here for negative 42, not negative 21. It's not just C when you have an A. You have to use what you multiplied A times C to be. So I'm going to have to start this all over. That's a mistake that's easily made. So you have to make sure you're paying attention. We just got off of completing it when A was 1, and all we were looking at was the C. But now we have to look at A times C, which in this case is negative 42. So 1 times 42, 2 times 21. Let's see if there's a 3. 42 divided by 3 is 14. 3 and 14. I think 3 and 14 is going to be it. Matter of fact. So negative 3 and a positive 14 is going to be a positive 11. So those are my two numbers, negative 3 and a positive 14. So we've done that. We found our factors. Now we need to split bx into 2 terms using these 2 factors that we found. So we're going to rewrite this whole problem, but we need to we're going to split this middle term up into 2 different terms. So we're going to have 2x squared at the beginning, and I'm still going to have my negative 21 at the end. You see, my first term and my last term stayed the same. Now this positive 11x, I'm going to split up into negative 3x and positive 14x, because negative 3 and positive 14, when you combine those like terms, guess what they come to? A positive 11x. So we split the middle term up into 2 terms, and that's how we get the name for this process called splitting the middle. Now what we're going to do is go ahead and group these together. And actually, I want to negative 3x and negative 14x. I can see looking at this that the 3 will match with the 21 and the 14 will match with the 2. So I'm actually going to change these around a little bit and put the 14 first. So a positive 14x and a negative 3x here. Now what I want to do is put some parentheses around these. Okay, this is a part of the splitting. You notice I put a plus in between them because we're not multiplying them, we're adding them. Okay, now that I've grouped them up into, we've got group 1 on the left and now group 2 on the right, I'm going to find a common factor to take out of them. So 2x squared plus 14x, a common factor is going to be 2x. So this is the factor by grouping. So I grouped them and now I'm taking out a common factor, right? 2x. So what does that leave me with? Well, 2x squared, take away a 2x and I'm left with just an x. 14x and take out a 2x and I'm going to be left with just a 7, right? So when we look at this one, I can take out a negative 3. Okay, so my positive right there, I didn't just drop it. When you add a negative number, that's the same thing as just subtracting 3. Okay, so I didn't just drop my plus sign all willy-nilly. if I add a negative, it turns into just a negative. So negative 3. Negative 3x divided by negative 3 is x. And negative 21 divided by negative 3 is positive 7. Well, now we can see that we have x plus 7 and x plus 7 being the same. So we can go ahead and rewrite this as x plus 7. Let's cross them out and see what we have left. You remember this? When we found these common factors, x plus 7 was a common factor in both of these. And then we have 2x minus 3. And so our final answer is x plus 7 times 2x minus 3. So going back here, I have 14 times 3 is negative 42, and 14 plus negative 3. Then step 5, you see I went ahead and wrote that 11x is 14x minus 3x. So I went ahead and split that up, my 11x into 14x and negative 3x down here, and grouped it with the parentheses. And then I factored out a common factor of each grouping. And then we have our answer, x plus 7 times 2x minus 3. Now, the more you practice this, the easier it will get. So I've got another one for us to try here. 4x squared minus 19x plus 12. I'm going to put the steps up on the screen. Here are these steps. If you don't have these written down in your notes, you should pause the video, write the steps down in your notes. Now, the first step is finding a greatest common factor. Is there a greatest common factor? Well, 4 is divisible by 4 and 2. 19, I can't do 4 or 2 out of those. There's an x in both of them, though, but there's not an x in the third one. So there is no common factor. So no greatest common factor. So step 1 is done. We're going to identify A, B, and C. A is 4, B is negative 19, and C is 12. Okay, step 2 is done. Step 3, we need to multiply A times C. 4 times 12. I'm going to use my calculator just to make sure that I get it correct. 4 times 12 is 48. Okay, then we need to find factors that multiply to be 48 and add to be negative 19. Let me make sure I put the right number there this time. Okay, 48. I did. Good job. 1 times 48, and I have the same sign, and they're both going to be negative. 1 times 48, 2 times 24. Let's see about 3. 48 divided by 3 is 16. So 3 times 16. Let's see about 4. 4 times 12. What about 5? 48 divided by 5? Nope, doesn't work. 48 divided by 6. That one works. 6 times 8. 48 divided by 7. 48 divided by 8 is already on there. So that would bring us full circle back again. So we don't need to continue anymore. And now we need to see what adds up to be negative 19. I'm going to guess it's this one, but let me just double check that in the calculator. Negative 3 plus negative 16 is negative 19. So these are our two numbers here. So we need to rewrite this equation, splitting the middle into these two coefficients. So let's rewrite this. Our first term is 4x squared. Nothing changed about 4x squared. It stayed exactly the same, right? Then I want to put 16 first because 4 and 16 just look like they go together. So I'm going to put 16 first. Negative 16x, okay? And then I'm going to put negative 3x. So you can see that 19 got split up into two terms. And then I'm going to have plus 12 at the end right here. That stayed exactly the same. So I've used all three terms and I've split this up into two. My middle term into two terms. But if you notice, negative 16 and negative 3 make negative 19. So it's still the same equation, just written a little bit differently. Okay, so now what I want to do is go ahead and group these. Okay, and I got to put a plus in between the two there. If you have a negative, it has to go into the grouping, and you put a plus in between. Okay, so now we need to find a common factor between these. So I can see between 4 and 16, I'm going to have a common factor for sure of 4, and then there's also an x in both of those. So 4x squared divided by 4x is going to leave me with just x. Negative 16x divided by 4x is going to leave me with just negative 4. Now let's look at this one. I think I'm going to have a negative 3 here, a negative 3, and not an x, so just a negative 3. And this is going to be x. And oops, it said it was supposed to have the same sign. And they were both supposed to be negative. So how will I do that? Well, this says positive 12, but think about it. Positive 12, we're taking out a negative 3. So a positive divided by a negative is a negative 4. And I want you to put it in your calculator just to be sure. You should have a calculator that does negatives and positives. Your negative is going to be in a different location than your minus sign. But when you plug it into your calculator, you can clearly see that that's a negative. So I don't want you just putting whatever sign you want. You need to verify it. Okay. Now, I can see that I've got like terms here. And I've got two terms, and within these terms, I have a common factor. And the common factor is x minus 4, okay? Because this is x minus 4 times 4x. And this is x minus 4 times negative 3. So my common factor in both of those terms is x minus 4. And if I took out the x minus 4 from both of these, what would I be left with? I'm going to be left with a 4x and then a minus 3. Okay, so my final answer is x minus 4 times 4x minus 3. All right, so this next one I want to see if you can do on your own. Go ahead and pause the video and try to do it on your own. Here's some steps. In case you haven't written them down yet, go ahead and do it now. All right, welcome back. So let's look at this. Let's see if there's a greatest common factor. 5 and 10, we're looking good. Maybe. Oh, and 6. Oh, I can't get a common factor out of those. But that's one less thing for me to do. So no common factor, no greatest common factor. All right, so we need to identify A, B, and C. A is 5, B is 10, and C is 6. Then we want to multiply A times C, 5 times 6. Well, I have an idea what I think it might be, but I'm going to put it in the calculator just to be sure. It's 30. Now we need to find something that multiplies to be 30. Oops, I haven't been checking it off. And adds to be 10. So I know that these are the same sign, and they're both going to be positive. So 1 times 30, 2 times 15, 3 times 10. Okay, those were the easy ones. Now let's see, 30 divided by 4. Okay, doesn't work. 30 divided by 5 is 6. So 5 times 6, and then 6 brings us full circle back around again. So we don't need to keep going. We need to see what adds to be 10. I know that's going to add to be 11. 6 plus 5 is 11. Okay, 30 plus 1 is 31. 2 plus 15 is 17. 3 plus 10, that's 13. Nothing added to be 10. Well, what does that mean? That means that this is prime. We can't factor it at all. It's already in its most factored state. It's in its most simple state. There is no factoring that can be done. This polynomial, this quadratic expression is prime. You need to know what prime is, and you need to be able to identify when one of your polynomials is prime. And it just didn't fit any of our criteria. There was no GCF, and we couldn't find factors of A times C that added to be B. So it's prime. All right, let's look at this one. See if we can do this one on our own. Go ahead and pause the video and try it on your own. All right, welcome back. Factor the GCF. There is definitely a GCF in this. All of these are even. So I know for a fact I can pull out a 2 from all of these. 2x squared minus 2x minus 8. Okay, so I've factored out my GCF. Now I need to identify A, B, and C. A, B, and C are just in the trinomial, the quadratic expression here. So A is going to be 1, B is going to be -2, and C is going to be -8. Well, at this point, we have A of 1. So we don't have to split the middle term, but I'm going to show you that we can still do it that way, and it's still going to work exactly the same. So if you don't want to remember the previous way of doing it, you can still just go through all these check marks and see it's going to work the same whether A is 1 or not. So -8 times 1 is going to be -8. So we want to find what multiplies to be -8 and adds to be -2. And we see that we have different signs, and the bigger number is going to be negative, the bigger number. Okay, so 8, 1 times 8, this one's negative, 2 times 4, this one's -3. Nope, 4 brings us back around again. So A being -2, this one's -7, so that's not going to work. 2 plus -4 is -2. So these are my two terms. So I'm going to have 2 times x squared. See, it just went straight there. And then my -2x is going to split up into a +2x and a -4x. Okay. And then my -8 is just going to stick right there back on the end and close my parentheses. Can't forget about that. Now I've split it up, and I need to put it into some parentheses. So 2 times x squared plus 2x plus -4x minus 8. Okay, so all I did was split it right there in the middle, just like we've done before. So this 2 has just gone straight down. We've done nothing with it, but keep dropping it down. Now I'm going to look for a common factor here in x squared plus 2x. The only thing that's common in this is going to be the x. Okay, so let's take this out. I'm still going to have my x there, my 2. Okay, and then I'm going to take an x out, and I'm going to have x plus 2. And then on this side, this grouping over here, -4x minus 8, well, I've got a -4 that I can take out of both of those. -4x divided by -4 is x. -8 divided by -4 is +2. Well, all of a sudden, I can see some like terms here. This is 2x, because the 2 came down, and then I took an x out, right? So this is 2x. That x can fit neatly in between there because this is 2 times all this stuff. And when I took the x out, it was being multiplied by all this stuff too. So it can just go right next to it because this is 2 times x plus 2. So that's why it can just stick right there in the front. All right, so we've got 2x times x plus 2 and -4 times x plus 2. So my common factor in both of those is x plus 2. And then I'm going to put my outside items inside a different parentheses here. So 2x minus 4. So I'm left with term 1, x plus 2, and term 2, 2x minus 4. So there you go, 2x. Well, you could also leave that 2 out because it's actually, this is actually a proper answer here. This is going to be the more proper answer because you could factor out the 2 from this still and just put, so you didn't need to put that 2 on the inside. You could leave the 2 on the outside and do x plus 2 and then x minus 4. Okay, so you didn't have to stick that x in with it. You could have just brought it down by itself. right, so moving on. Here we have another one, 6x squared plus 13x minus 5. We're going to see if we can find a common factor. We've got 6, we've got 13, we've got -5. I do not see a number that can go into any of those, and not all of them have the same variable. So let's check that. There's no GCF. A is going to be 6, B is going to be 13, and C is -5. A times C is -30. Find the factors of A times C. So we need something that multiplies to be -30, but adds to be +13. All right, so this says different signs, and the bigger one is going to be positive. So 1 times 30, and 2 times 15, and 3 times 10. All right, now let's use my calculator. 30 divided by 4. Nope. 30 divided by 5. Yep, I thought that one was going to work. 5 times 6. And that brings us right back around. So let's see what they add to. This is going to be 29. So that's out. This is going to be 13. Ah, that's the one. So let's write it over here, 6x squared. That stayed exactly the same. We can cross it out. 13x is going to split into -5 and a +6. I need to figure out which one I'm going to write with 6x squared. If I'm thinking ahead, I know that I'm going to eventually factor something out of this. So I want to see something that might have a common factor. And so I'm going to choose to put the 6 first. So plus 6x here. Okay, and then minus 5x. So +6, -5. Oops, why did I do 5 and 6? I had the other one circled, but I didn't cross out these other ones, and I was just looking at the bottom. Oopsies. All right, so let me rethink about this. So we've got a 2 and a 15 here. So we need something that could possibly have a common factor with 6. Well, 2 would have a common factor with 6, but so would 15. So let me look at this other one, 5. Well, 2 can't have a common factor with 5, but 15 can. So I'm going to put my 2 first. And remember, that's a -2. So -2x and +15x. So let me check. This is how I noticed my mistake before. So it's always good to check your work as you go. I was looking at these saying, okay, well, these add up to, oh, but they didn't. So that's how I found out I got it, had written it wrong. You need to check your work as you go. So -2 and +15, those do make a +13. So we can cross that out. We're done with it now. And -5 just gets tagged on right there at the end. We can cross it out. Now, let's go ahead and group these. And this time I don't need to write a positive sign, a plus sign in the middle, because this is positive. So we're just done, just like that. All right, so a common factor here is going to be 2x. So 6x squared divided by 2 is going to be 3x plus -2x. Oops, didn't need that plus there. -2x divided by 2 is 2x, excuse me, is going to be just a -1, isn't it? -2x divided by 2x is -1. And then we've got 15x and -5. I can take out a, we could take out a +5. Let's take out a +5. So +5. Let's see what happens there. So we've got 15 divided by +5 is 3x, and -5 divided by a +5 is a -1. And that allows us to have 3x minus 1 and 3x minus 1, which is our goal. Our goal is to get it so we have a term within the parentheses that's exactly the same on both of these terms. So we have a little polynomial inside the parentheses that on term 1 that matches a little polynomial inside the parentheses on term 2, because we want to have some common factors. So our common factor is 3x minus 1 here. And we're going to cross this out and cross this out. And what's left is 2x plus 5. So 3x minus 1 and 2x plus 5. Now, mine is in a different order, but again, what matters is the order inside the parentheses. Which set of parentheses comes first does not matter. So this is correct as well as this. All right, so here's some more practice for you. I've got your steps down here, but you should have them written down as well. So 3p squared minus 2p minus 5. There's no common factor. Done with step 1. A is 3, B is -2, and C is -5. A times C is what? 3 times -5 is -15. So we need something that multiplies to -15 and adds to -2. And we know that they're going to be different signs, and the bigger number is going to be negative. So 1 times -15, I don't know why I want to write the 1 first. 2 will not work. That's an odd number. 3 times -5. 4, there's nothing there. So we're trying to get to -2. 1 plus -15. 1 plus -15. That's -14. So that can't be right. I hope this is it. 3 plus -5. -2, that's what I'm looking for. So let's rewrite this. 3p squared. Which one of these, 3 or 5, should I pair with that 3? Well, I'm going to pair the 3 with a 3. That's easy to figure out what is going to be some common factors in there. So 3p, and then my next term is -5p. So my 3p squared was right here at the beginning. Then my middle terms, 3p and -5p, make -2p. Then I'm going to stick a -5 on the end. Go in and put some parentheses around these. Okay, you see what I've done there. Now I'm going to take out my common terms. I have a 3p as a common factor here. I said term, I meant factor, excuse me. So 3p squared divided by 3p is simply p. 3p divided by 3p is going to be 1. Okay, so -5p and -5 have a common factor of -5, and I'm going to have p plus 1, because -5p divided by -5 is just p, and -5 divided by -5 is just 1. So my common factor is p plus 1. Now that I've gotten rid of those, my only factors I have left are 3p minus 5. And so it leaves me with p plus 1 and 3p minus 5. All right, moving on. I've got here 2x squared plus 11x plus 5. I've got no common factors, so I'm done with that. A is 2, B is 11, and C is 5. I want to find something that multiplies to A times C. So 2 times 5 is 10 and adds to be 11. So 1 times 10, 2 times 5, 3, 4, and then 5, we circle back around again. They both have the same sign and they're both positive. 1 plus 10 is 11, and there's my answer. 2 plus 5, that's going to be 7, so that didn't work. All right, so let's rewrite this. 2x squared, 2x squared. Cross that out because I'm done. Now I need something that's going to pair with 2 for this. But 1 kind of pairs with everything. So let's look at the 5. What's going to pair better with the 5? Well, the 10 will. I think it would, either one would pair with both because 10 is even. So it could pair with that one as well. Let's see. Let's just leave it the way it is. Let's go with plus 1, plus 1x. Can't forget the x's. Plus 10x. Plus 5. So 1 plus 10 is that 11 in the middle, and then my plus 5 on the end. So I copied everything over. Now I need to insert some parentheses here. All right. And then I want to go ahead and take out some common factors. So the common factor, the only thing I see here is going to be x. So I'm going to have 2x plus 1. And then on this, the only common factor I see is going to be 5. So, oops. Plus 5, and then 10x divided by 5 is 2, plus 5 divided by 5, 2x, because 10x divided by 5, you can't forget about that x there. 5 divided by 5 is 1. All right, so we have a common factor here of 2x plus 1, And let's go ahead and cross those out. And then what we have remaining is x plus 5. So let's put that in a second factor here, x plus 5. So this is our factored form of the expanded polynomial here. All right, moving on. Greatest common factor, nope, no greatest common factor, no GCF. So A is 4, B is negative 15, and C is negative 25. Let's find something that multiplies to be negative 25 times 4. Well, if I had 4 quarters, that'd be $1. So it's 100, negative 100. And adds to negative 15. And I know that we're going to have different signs, and the bigger number will be negative. So 1 times negative 100, 2 times negative 50, 3, 4 times negative 25, 5 times negative 20. We could keep going. I'm going to see if one of these works because I have an idea already of one that works. I think 5 and 20 are going to make 15, but let's just double check. 5 plus negative 20 is negative 15. So those are going to be, that's going to be where I find my answer. So my first term, 4a squared, I'm going to write right here, 4a squared. I can cross that off now. Now let's look at these terms, negative 25 and 4. Well, I think 4 would pair better with the 20, and negative 25 kind of goes with both. So I'm going to put the 20 first, minus 20a plus 5a. Negative 20a plus 5a, that's negative 15a. Cross that out. Then put my negative 25 at the end. Cross that out. All right, so now I need to group these. Let's go ahead and throw some parentheses up. And then find some common factors. 4a squared and negative 20a is going to be 4a as a common factor, which leaves me with just a. And then negative 20a divided by 4a is going to leave me with negative 5. And here I have a plus 5 as my common factor. So a minus 5. A minus 5 and a minus 5, those are common factors. So a minus 5. And then 4a plus 5. 4a plus 5. And we are done. One more problem. All right, 15n squared, 27n, negative 6. I think there's a common factor there. Let's give it a shot. Let's put it in our calculator. I think the common factor might be 3. So 15 divided by 3 is going to be 5. Negative 27 divided by 3 is going to be negative 9, and negative 6 divided by 3 is going to be negative 2. So I do have a common factor of 3. And so then we're going to have 5n squared minus 9n minus 2. So then I've got a equals 5, b equals negative 9, and c equals negative 2. So I'm going to have to find something that multiplies to b. 5 times negative 2, negative 10, and adds to b, negative 9. Multiplies to b, meaning the word b, be, not the letter b, which is what we're adding to, right? So multiplies to negative 10, which is we're going to have different signs, and the bigger number will be negative. 1 times negative 10, 2 times negative 5, 3, 4, and 5. We're back at it. So 1 plus negative 10 is negative 9. We're done. This is our answer. Let's rewrite this equation. We're going to bring down the 3. Okay. 5n squared minus 9n minus 2. We're going to write 5n squared. Oops, can't forget the parentheses. Cross that out. Negative 9n. I need 1 and I need negative 10. I'm going to put the negative 10 with the 5. I like that. Negative 10n. And then 1n. And I'm going to put my negative 2 at the end. All right. So negative 2 is there. Negative 10, positive 1 is negative 9. So if you noticed, I went ahead and started writing my parentheses as I was writing instead of at the end, but I still ended up with the same thing. Now I'm going to bring down my 3 here. 3. Now I need to find a common factor to take out of here. It's going to be 5n, which is going to leave me with n minus 2. And here, There's nothing I can take out of this. It's just going to be n minus 2. I can drop the 1, right? So the common factor for these is n minus 2. And then I have 5n here at the beginning. There's a times there, but and I'm going to do 5n, that's my first one, plus. Well, there's nothing here because I dropped that 1, but essentially there's a hidden number 1. So you can just add that 1 back in right there. Can't forget about my 3 that I've been dropping down, but I do want to, I'm going to just draw a little line here so we can see that that's a different part of the problem. It doesn't continue because they're so close. So my final answer is 3 times n minus 2 times 5n plus 1. All right, I'm sure you got all those right, and I look forward to seeing you on the next lesson.